Derek Holbrook could smell the diesel before he saw the chainsaws. It mixed with the dry scent of desert wind, the faint perfume of fresh-cut wood, and something else, something wrong. The funeral suit clung to his back, stiff with the heat of a long day spent in graveside silence. His tie hung loose, his throat raw from words he hadn't been able to say when the minister tried to make grief sound neat and tidy. He turned down his street, expecting the usual quiet hum of a neighborhood at sunset. Instead, engines growled, voices carried, and there, standing at the center of it all like a queen surveying her conquest, was Christine Cartwright. Her clipboard caught the light like a signal mirror, each movement precise, deliberate. Around her, men in safety vests worked with mechanical indifference, the whine of saws echoing against stucco walls. A century-old oak, his family's oak, leaned like a wounded giant, its canopy half gone, branches severed and dumped in neat piles along the curb. The tree that had shaded 4 generations of Holbrooks now looked as if someone had carved grief straight into its trunk. Derek stopped in the middle of the road, unable to breathe. He'd buried his father that morning. Now he was staring at the murder of his family's legacy. Christine spotted him and smiled. Not the awkward smile a neighbor caught in the act, but the cool, professional smirk of someone holding a winning hand. She tapped her clipboard with a single manicured nail. Emergency safety removal. She called over the scream of machinery. Your branches were hanging dangerously. The board approved immediate action. Immediate action. On the very day his father went into the ground. Neighbors stood at a distance, phones raised, watching as if this were a show rather than a crime. No one crossed the property line. No one spoke. Derek stepped out of his truck, slow and deliberate, feeling the weight of 1,000 unsaid words pressing on his chest. This tree's been here longer than all of you combined, he said, voice low but steady. It stood through monsoons, dust storms, and 3 generations of Holbrooks who cared for it. Who told you it was dangerous? Christine didn't flinch. She didn't even look up from her paperwork. 3 separate complaints, she replied briskly, flipping to a page as though reading from scripture. HOA regulations allow us to intervene when community safety is threatened. Community safety. What a convenient phrase to hide a vendetta behind. Derek's eyes swept the crowd. A few neighbors looked away, guilty. Others kept filming, hungry for drama. Mrs. Olivia, 83, sharp-eyed, standing with her cane like it was a sword, shook her head once, slow and deliberate, her expression saying everything words couldn't. You didn't even ask, Derek said. His voice cracked, the weight of the funeral still hanging on every syllable. You waited until I was gone. You knew. Christine's lips curled, a perfect politician's half-smile. I followed procedure, she said, then tilted her chin toward the butcher tree. If you have a problem, sue us. The chainsaw roared again, spitting sawdust into the golden air. Derek stood frozen, his shadow long and thin on the asphalt as the sun bled toward the horizon. He wasn't just looking at broken wood. He was looking at every memory carved into that bark. His dad with a coffee mug at sunrise, his own wedding photo under that canopy, 100 family gatherings where laughter drifted through leaves that no longer existed. Something cold and steady slid into Derek's chest, pushing back against the grief. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was purpose. Christine Cartwright thought she'd humiliated him, thought she'd taught him a lesson about power and compliance. But Derek Holbrook had spent his life working with electricity, and he knew what happened when you pushed too much current through the wrong wires. You blew the whole system. The smell of fresh sawdust still clung to his clothes, as if the tree's dying breath had followed him inside. He sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, staring at a faded photograph, his father at 20, sitting under that same oak with a guitar in his lap, sunlight through the branches cutting shadows across his face. Every creak of the house sounded louder without his dad's voice there. The old clock ticked in uneven beats, like it was nervous too. Derek's coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he kept sipping because it gave his hands something to do besides shake. Out front, the wounded tree loomed like a sentinel in half-darkness, its jagged silhouette framed by the porch light. Derek swore it looked like it was holding its breath, waiting. He'd spent his career fixing other people's mistakes. Overloaded circuits, faulty wiring, anything that sparked where it shouldn't. Now, staring at that tree, Derek realized Christine Cartwright was just another kind of short circuit. One bad connection burning through everything good around her. By sunrise, he'd made up his mind. This wasn't going to be another one of those stories where bullies win because decent people are too tired to fight back. The first spark came from Mrs. Olivia. Derek found her waiting on his porch at 7 sharp. Hair perfectly set, cane tapping the wood like a metronome. "Got something you'll want to see," she said, producing a small flash drive like a magician revealing card. Her security cameras had caught Christine at dawn on the day of the funeral, measuring Derek's tree herself, clipboard in hand, long before any emergency order was filed. She wasn't protecting the neighborhood, Olivia said, her voice hard as mesquite. She was planning an execution. Derek plugged the drive into his laptop and watched the footage. There she was, Christine in a pressed blazer, crouching at the roots with a tape measure, glancing over her shoulder like a thief. Timestamps clear as sunrise. Evidence of intent. Why'd she do it? Derek asked quietly, though part of him already knew. Olivia adjusted her glasses. Power. People like her collect it the way crows collect shiny things. Doesn't even matter if they need it. By mid-morning, Derek was making calls. First to the county arborist who trimmed the tree 6 months ago, certification in hand, confirming the oak was healthy and stable. Then to Jake Morrison, an old friend turned attorney whose voice carried the kind of calm you hear from men who win arguments for a living. "You're telling me she cut a protected tree during a funeral?" Jake asked. Derek could hear paper rustling as he wrote notes. "And you've got video proof of her staging it?" "Yeah, this isn't just a bad neighbor issue. This smells like abuse of authority." Jake promised to start digging into HOA records, financials, emergency procedures, every paper trail Christine thought was buried. Derek didn't need to hear the rest. He knew Jake. When that man started a job, he finished it. But Christine wasn't the type to back off. By lunchtime, a thick envelope arrived in Derek's mailbox. HOA letterhead printed in crisp black ink. Notice of violations. Grass height, non-compliant. Commercial vehicle, improperly parked. Excessive noise from weekend projects, disturbing the peace. Each came with escalating daily fines. It was petty, calculated harassment, the kind meant to exhaust a man until he broke. Derek read every page, then tossed them in a drawer. Let her build her paper castle. He'd burn it down with one match. That evening, Derek walked the property line under a sky turning purple with desert dusk. Neighbors passed by without making eye contact. A few whispered. One teenager slowed long enough to take a selfie with the half-tree, then jogged off like nothing happened. The oak itself stood silent, scarred but unbowed, catching the last gold light on its torn trunk. Derek rested a hand against the bark. "We're not done," he murmured. "Not by a long shot." Somewhere down the block, Christine's perfect SUV purred to life. She drove past without looking at him. Phone pressed to her ear, expression unreadable behind tinted glass. But Derek didn't need to see her face to know she was planning her next move. The desert sky bled copper and violet as Derek stepped out of Jake Morrison's downtown office, his head buzzing like a transformer about to blow. The meeting had confirmed what he'd only suspected before. Christine Cartwright's attack on the oak wasn't just about personal spite. It was hiding something bigger, dirtier. Jake's paralegal had found payments. HOA funds written to a landscaping company owned by Christine's brother-in-law. Thousands of dollars. No competitive bids. No board approval. "This isn't neighbor drama," Jake said, sliding a folder across the table. "It's embezzlement. Your tree wasn't just collateral damage. It was a cover-up." Derek had spent 52 years fixing other people's mistakes with a pair of pliers and a steady hand. But this wasn't a broken circuit or a blown fuse. This was rot wired into the walls, and it was running through his neighborhood like current through copper. When he got home, the street was crawling with strangers. A tour bus idled at the curb, diesel rumble vibrating through the quiet evening. People spilled out with phones and selfie sticks, snapping photos of the mutilated oak as if it were some desert art installation. Kids climbed over the stump like it was a playground. Derek froze on the sidewalk, his grief and anger twisting into something strange and unfamiliar. It should have felt like violation, tourists trampling sacred ground, but instead he saw something Christine could never have predicted. People weren't horrified. They were fascinated. A man with a professional camera knelt in the gravel, framing the torn trunk against the setting sun. "This is incredible," he muttered, like something out of a Dali painting. Christine appeared at the far end of the block, heels clicking on pavement, voice sharp as glass. "You can't loiter here. This is private property." She waved her clipboard like a sword, ordering strangers to disperse. But the crowd only laughed, taking more photos, live-streaming the confrontation. That was the moment Derek saw it clearly. Christine was losing control. The very thing she tried to destroy was becoming something untouchable, famous, loved, shared. That night, Derek sat under the wounded oak with Mrs. Olivia. The old woman handed him a thermos of coffee and a folder thick with printed screenshots. "Look at this," she said, flipping to page after page of online posts. #Halftree was trending in the county. Local businesses were joking about heritage lattes. A gallery downtown wanted to host a photo exhibition. "This isn't just about revenge anymore," Olivia said quietly, her voice steady despite her 83 years. "She's exposed herself. People are watching. You have a chance to show what real neighbors do when someone tries to bully them." Derek stared at the jagged outline of his family's oak against the stars. His chest tightened with something he hadn't felt since before his father got sick, a spark of purpose. "Then we hit her where it hurts," he said. "We pull every record, every payment, every fake emergency order, and we make damn sure the world sees it." The next morning, Christine made her move first. A bright red notice was taped to Derek's front door. "Cease and desist. Harassment of HOA board." The letter accused him of defaming a respected community leader and threatened legal action if he didn't remove provocative online content. Derek crumpled the paper in his fist. He hadn't posted a single thing online. But Christine didn't need truth, just intimidation. That afternoon, his work truck's tires were slashed in the Home Depot parking lot. For brand new Michelin's lying flat, surgical cuts, so clean they might as well have been done with the same saw that butchered his tree. And that night, at 3 a.m., Mrs. Olivia's security cameras caught a shadow moving across Derek's lawn, a figure in dark clothes carrying something heavy and metallic. When the footage reached Jake, he didn't hesitate. "That's attempted sabotage," he said. "She's escalating. And now it's criminal." Standing in the doorway of his darkened house, Derek looked out at the half-tree, glowing faintly under the porch light. He wasn't just fighting for a piece of family history anymore. He was fighting for proof that people like Christine could be beaten, that power didn't always get the last word. The grief was still there, but something else had taken root beside it. Not rage, not revenge. Resolved at BY Thursday evening, Derek Holbrook's quiet street felt like the front line of a war nobody admitted was happening. The half-tree had become a landmark. Tourists kept coming. Families, college kids with drones, even a wedding photographer staging couples under its strange, torn canopy. Every click of a camera felt like another nail in Christine Cartwright's perfect facade. But she didn't retreat. She doubled down. The HOA peppered Derek with violation letters, so thick his mailbox sagged. Code enforcement inspectors showed up twice in 3 days. Once about improper vehicle storage, once about unsafe wiring in his garage. Both times, they left empty-handed, muttering apologies as they climbed back into their city trucks. The pressure wasn't just paperwork. Anonymous notes started appearing under his windshield wipers and taped to his front door. "Drop the lawsuit or things get worse." Trees aren't the only things that get cut down. The first time he read one, Derek felt that familiar throb of anger. The second time, it hit something deeper, fear. Not for himself. For Mrs. Olivia, who still crossed the street each morning to check on him, carrying evidence folders like a soldier carrying ammo. For the neighbors who'd begun to whisper encouragement when Christine wasn't looking. "This isn't just about a tree anymore," Derek told Jake on the phone, voice low. eyes sweeping the quiet street as if it might be listening. She's trying to scare people into silence. Jake's answer was steady, calm, the voice of someone who'd been through legal brawls before. Then we stop playing defense. We take it public. The first crack came at the HOA's monthly meeting. Christine swept into the beige community center like a general inspecting troops. Blazer perfect, smile sharper than glass. The folding chairs were packed, half with her hand-picked supporters, half with residents tired of being bullied. Derek sat near the back, watching her present evidence of declining property values and dangerous tourist traffic. Children can't even ride their bikes safely, Christine said, gesturing at blown-up photos of strangers snapping selfies. This circus must end. When she called for a vote to authorize complete removal of the half-tree, Jake stood up like a man stepping into a prize ring. His briefcase clicked open with theatrical precision. "Before any vote," he said, his voice carrying over the murmurs, "I have documentation the board might find enlightening." He handed copies of HOA financial records to every member present. Records showing $3,200 paid to Christine's brother-in-law's landscaping company for emergency removal. No board approval, no competitive bids. Murmurs turned into open whispers. One board member paled visibly. Christine's smile faltered for the first time. "This is irrelevant," she snapped, voice sharp enough to slice through paper. "We're here to discuss a public nuisance, not accounting minutiae." Jake didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. This isn't minutiae, it's embezzlement. And emergency orders filed after the work started are illegal under state law. Gasps rippled through the room. Phones came out. Someone started live streaming. Christine tried to gavel the meeting closed, but the noise drowned her out. For the first time, Derek saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing an argument, but fear of losing control. That night, Derek sat under the oak's wounded branches, watching the stars blink into place like cautious witnesses. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt hollow. The fight wasn't over. If anything, it had just begun. And the closer he got to exposing Christine, the more dangerous she became. His father's voice came back to him, gravelly and calm from years of early morning coffee under these same branches. "When you stand up to bullies, make sure your feet are planted. They'll shove harder than you think." A car crept past his house, headlights dimmed. Too slow to be casual, too fast to stop. Derek's gut tightened. He couldn't prove it was Christine's allies, but he didn't need proof to feel the threat. He looked up at the torn canopy, imagining his dad there, mug in hand, saying something simple and unshakable. "Don't back down, son." "Not now." Derek tightened his fist around the anonymous note still in his pocket. The paper soft from being folded and unfolded too many times. Fear tried to crawl into his chest, but under it was something heavier and far more stubborn. Resolve. The next step wasn't just about saving his tree anymore. It was about proving that people like Christine couldn't crush a man's legacy and walk away smiling. Jake had a plan, and tomorrow, Derek would put in motion that smelled like industrial cleaner and nervous sweat, every folding chair packed, every phone camera pointed forward. Word had spread. This wasn't just another HOA meeting. It was an execution. Christine Cartwright sat at the head table, blazer immaculate, jaw tight. But up close, Derek saw the cracks. Gray roots creeping into her perfect hairline, fingers tapping the gavel with a rhythm too quick to be calm. "This meeting," she began, voice pitched high for the microphones, "is to vote on the removal of a dangerous structure threatening property values and community safety." Her gaze cut across the crowd like a blade, landing on Derek. No smile this time. No esmirk. Just cold calculation. Jake Morrison stood at Derek's shoulder, briefcase in hand. Posture so calm it bordered on casual. "Ready," he murmured. "Do it," Derek said. His voice surprised even himself. Steady, low, unshakable. Christine's presentation was flawless theater. Charts on a projector. A landscaper for hire in a stiff-tie warning of structural instability. Photos of tourists crowding the street, framed as evidence of danger rather than fascination. When she produced a petition with 37 signatures demanding immediate action, the front rows applauded on cue. Then Jake walked to the podium. The applause died instantly. Before any vote is taken, he said, holding up a manila folder, the board and the community need to see these. He handed copies down the aisle. Pages rustled. Murmurs swelled. They were financial records, not rumors, not accusations, but line items showing over $47,000 of HOA funds paid to businesses owned by Christine's relatives. No competitives. No board approval. Christine tried to interrupt, voice rising. This is out of order. No, Jake said, still calm, still steady. What's out of order is filing emergency paperwork after chainsaws start cutting. What's out of order is writing $3,200 checks to your brother-in-law for work that destroyed a protected tree. Gasps echoed. Phones were up now, live streaming every word. Even Christine's hand-picked landscaper shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Protected tree? Someone called from the back. Jake smiled faintly. Yes, under the original property deed. Section 12, Environmental Covenant. Any mature heritage specimen, explicitly including Mr. Holbrook's oak, is preserved in perpetuity. Cutting it without city permits isn't just improper. It's illegal. The silence was heavy enough to crush the air. Christine's face went waxy pale. Furthermore, Jake continued, voice like a scalpel, the contractor who performed this so-called emergency removal, your brother-in-law, is subject to criminal penalties for destroying protected flora. And this board is complicit if it approves any further action without review. Christine slammed the gavel so hard it cracked the table. This is slander, she shrieked. Lies from a bitter man who can't let go of a dead tree. Derek stood then, not planned, not rehearsed. The room turned with him as he walked to the front, funeral black suit replaced by work boots and a denim shirt. No papers, no charts, just his voice. That dead tree, he said quietly, was planted by my great-grandfather when he came home from the trenches in 1923. My dad drank his morning coffee under it every day until cancer took him. Christine cut it down while I was burying him. The room stayed silent except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights. She thought I'd roll over. Thought I'd get tired. But the only thing I'm tired of is bullies hiding behind clipboards. This isn't about property values. It's about power. And today we take it back. Applause started at the back. One sharp clap, then another, building into a roar. Christine's supporters shrank in their seats. Then the doors at the rear opened. Two men in dark suits stepped in, flashing federal credentials. Their voices cut through the chaos. Christine Cartwright, you're under arrest for embezzlement, destruction of protected property, and filing fraudulent emergency reports. Handcuffs gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Christine froze, eyes wide, lips trembling. The queen of the cul-de-sac stripped of her crown. Phones captured every click of the cuffs, every step as she was led past neighbors she'd spent years intimidating. No one clapped now. The sound was louder than applause. It was relief. Derek stood still, feeling the moment wash over him. Not triumph, not gloating, just release. The weight of his father's absence and his family's legacy finally finding balance. The fight was over, and the tree, half wounded but still standing, would live.